What you have here are the replicas made by the Royal Ontario Museum of the Beardmore relics. The Beardmore relics are Viking relics. They are real Viking relics. They're dated from about 900 to 1000 AD. There's 100 years difference between the axe and the sword. Now the problem comes when you've got the pot calling the kettle black. Somebody said they saw those relics in a basement in Thunder Bay or Port Arthur before they were discovered at Warford outside of Beardmore. He worked on the trains, the CN trains, but he also was a prospector. So he dynamited this one area, not far off the Blackwater River.
So this is just up past the Palisades. This is just up at Orient Bay, just past where you guys were hiking there?
Yeah, so it's between, I guess, McDermott and Beardmore, where Warnford is.
Mm-hmm. It's
a siding. So he discovered these. Okay, so then he had them in Thunder Bay, and it was a few years before it really got publicized that he had them, and then somebody discovered it and told the Royal Ontario Museum, and the Royal Ontario Museum contacted him, and then of course they bought them, and then they started getting these, well, maybe he didn't find them where he thought he found them, but nobody was missing them. But we still have like granddaughters coming down saying, my grandfather had those and we knew where they were, all this sort of stuff.
Wow.
So now there's scads and scads and scads of newspaper articles in the 30s and the 40s from all the speculation about them, and they were real and they were found there. So we have on the Nipigon Museum blog, we have all the newspaper articles written about the Beardmore relics, and then the Royal Ontario Museum did a big research on it, hoax or history. So they took affidavits from people, and they are in that book, and they're also in newspapers and whatever, and there's big stories where they found swords down at Rossport. They found swords by Sault Ste. Marie. And of course Minnesota really liked it because it fit with their connections to their place with the runestone at Alexandria, which I've seen, which looks real, and it's been verified by Washington, whatever, that it is the real runestone. But they also have what they call their Viking relics, which look like beautiful silver. And when I was looking at them compared to what mine was that went through so much, I figured, okay, those are a little bit iffy on those, but the runestone I would go. Now there's also the guy in California that has the website on Lynette and the Vikings in America. And what he's been doing is he's been going through the ruins and the sagas, and then using Google Earth and trying to find where they went from Greenland to come across when they disappeared, when the little ice age came in and they had to come across. So they think they came through Hudson Bay, and some went right through to Winnipeg and then down into the States. But he figures some of them also come down the routes into Lake Nipigon. So
Betty, what year was were these relics?
1931.
Okay.
So 1931 was
that's
when
they
discovered.
They found them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it would be maybe about 35 or something when the Royal Ontario Museum purchased them.
Okay.
And of course they showed up in. I brought the Ages home, and different books in our school books had the Vikings coming down through here because they took it for real.
Right.
So your whole education system.
Yeah, use this information.
After they had the big frou-frou,
Yeah.
then everything had to come out of that.
Right, yeah.
So,
Rewrote history.
yeah, so they had to, go back in history again.
So this is
now-
still controversial.
Oh yeah, but what they've got, they used to have the, Buzz was trying to get the real ones. And Jack Stokes was helping him out. He was going in there as this, speaker and all that, sort of chasing them around. And you get these wild letters, which is like cease and desist, because Buzz never gives up. So 8 years later, we got them. We got copies of the replicas in there. I went down there and tried to see them, and they said, oh, they're stored away. Everybody's seen them. I said, I haven't. Didn't get anywhere. So I mean, we drove the Royal Ontario Museum crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in 1980, 82 we got them up that area. And we got the replicas because the real ones, they wanted 24-hour guard sort of thing, and we always said, okay, we'll put them in the bank vault overnight. Royal Bank said they would store them there, and then we could have them during our display time and all that. But every time we agreed to whatever they come up with, well, then they had another excuse sort of thing. So, yeah, but Buzz Lyons never gave up, and neither did Jack Stokes. So that's why you got Jack Stokes in there.
Very good.
So much. That was our member of provincial parliament. Here were the missionaries in 1667, and they had their celebrated their mass on Lake Nipigon, on the Nipigon River, Lake Nipigon area there, or somewhere maybe around Orient Bay in 1667, and then in 1668 Duluth came up and left his brother up on Lake Nipigon and north of Ambabica Bay there, and they built La Tourette, the Fort La Tourette there. So we've been in the fur trade since 1668. By 1799 there were 13 different posts around Lake Nipigon, and then in about say 1808, something like that, the beaver crashed. So it went down to about maybe 4 or 5 posts that stayed up there, and all the rest, it sort of went into a forgotten territory for quite a few years, up until until I guess everybody started fishing there. There was still a Hudson Bay Company there, and they were Hudson Bay Northwest Company. They kept their posts up there, but they didn't do the big traffic that they were doing before. So what you see on that map and the pins are where these trade axes. So the trade axes go from the late 1600s up to the U.S. Indian Department. They gave out axes as part of their treaty pay. Oh. And that was found in Lake Helen.
It's quite a collection you got there.
Yeah.
So, yes, and that is, there's this, David Peterson is doing a compendium of trade axes, and he's got over 800 now for the Lake Superior Basin area, which nobody was doing in 1973 when we opened the museum, and I was trying to get information on trade axes. They had pipe tomahawks, they had imitation ones, but they didn't have the real McCoys. There was the odd book that would have reference to some with the trademarks on, so we knew they were like the 3 crowns for the Hudson Bay Company, and which Peterson says is one of the better axes that he's seen of that. And then we have French. So we have French and British. And they figure the one in the top right-hand corner was a Spanish-made axe. Cool. It's a big guy. So he's really been good at. He photographed. I took those axes up to Thunder Bay, and when he was there, at the university, and he photographed each one, measured them, and did all that. So got them really well detailed. So that came out of the blog because I had the pictures of the axis, the drawings I had and stuff up there, and some guy, and it used to be one of the guys from here that's up in Thunder Bay, he told Peterson about it, and then Peterson saw that, and then he got in contact. So it goes, the blog gets around, comes around, so the blog on the Beardmore Valley pulls in a lot of people too. Now the tobacco twists, they survived the fire. I had to put a little explanation of what they were because they looked like a little bit like dog doo-doo.
Yeah, true enough.
Yeah, and that's the ulu, an Eskimo ulu there. And then you have the people that do the work with the birch bark. They make the knife sheets, they make the baskets, and they make the slippers. So they become, and then that's the basket. That basket went through the fire.
Wow.
And that end of the ceinture flèche fell in there and survived. So it got wet, and then it froze. So when the windows blew out, they could get the water in. And I was so worried about some places that didn't have, window access or something like that, but it just blew that, what used to be the window that was in my room, it blew it right out with the explosion.
What vintage is this Hudson Bay Company pin? What year did that roughly?
I don't know. They found that inside the muckluck.
Oh,
we
wow.
took one of the mucklucks down to well, you see, we'd had it, we used to have cloth backing, so we had the pin stuck on it, and then when it burnt, the pin fell into the bearskin muckluck. So when they were cleaning up the bearskin muckluck, they found a Hudson Bay Company pin, which I forgot we had. So I don't know what year that would have been from.
Okay.
So there.
And these little birch bark canoes, that was kind of a traditional gift, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's made locally from the Lake Helen. Yeah, Lake Helen, or actually, likely, maybe they might have even been up at Parmachine.
Yeah, I see that.
Because of the date.
Well, and even in the
because they moved in 1950 when the train stopped running its little coach.
Well, and you see that being carried by part of the royal family when they came here to fish.
Yeah.
Back in 1919, they were given a gift of a small canoe. You'll see that under their arm in the photos on the river. Yeah,
and then that's one of the Francis Hopkins paintings there that we have. I've got about 5. I think I've got about 5 of her posters. She came through here with her husband on his way west. So she did a lot of drawing and then painting so that people know what the voyagers look like because of an artist. So art really held history. It shows history. I don't know what they're going to think of Picasso's art, but but when you have reality art, it worked because there was no photographs.
Documentation, yeah.
No
it's really
photographs
cool.
yet. So, and all these snowshoes came in after the fire because we lost all but one. And that was just a junk one we had in the basement that would survive. Local animals and birds, mostly they're predators, so the squirrels are taken cover.
Yeah. Yeah, that was in the front office of the M&R, and when they remodeled, I tried to get it together for the M&R and collected animals over the years, and then thought it would be a good place for it down here.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully we'll get the other half of this display down here with the full-size eagle mount that I had
We'll
done.
have to add a second story or
Great
something.
blue heron.
Yeah.
There's beautiful great blue heron mount there too that I'd love to get my hands on. But that eagle it's a full spread eagle up there too.
Yeah, you could hang it from the ceiling, but nobody'd see it, 'cause not too many people look at. We used to have things hanging from the ceiling. We had them everywhere.
What about this canoe? Where does that?
That canoe came from north of Ornament Lake.
Okay.
It was in a shed, so it survived. So they figure it's around 1920.
Okay.
And it's got the close slats, so it's more for a heavy. It's not a Sunday tourist.
Mm-hmm. And what about the paddles? Where did they?
And the paddles must have. Well, the paddles went through the fire.
Oh, they were in the museum during the fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this wasn't. This come afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. We had we had those paddles. Those paddles were in the post office area, I think. We lost our 10-foot birch bark canoe. We had a beautiful 10-foot birch bark canoe. Burnt. So this is our transportation style over the years. I guess that's what they're looking for that Parks Canada bit on steamers and boats and stuff.
What about this character right here?
Oh, this guy, Paddle to the Sea. Paddle to the Sea was written in 1941, but the author was up here in 1939. Lillian Walters met him and stuff like this, and he was sort of casing the joint. And he did really well because I grew up with that book, and it really explained the Great Lakes and how they went together. But over the years we've had children from other schools work with our local school system on, they studied Paddle to the Sea, and then they made up their little boats. These are from Michigan. And then our kids took them out on the Morning Star and threw them in.
Yeah.
So these were found, one on the island out there, St. Ignace Island, and the other one was just down here on the beach.
Okay.
But they had their names washed off, so I knew where they came from, but I didn't know which ones they were, so we just put them in here. But the little kid who's in the picture, his father flew him up from Chagrin Falls in Ohio.
Oh, wow.
And they, as a father-son project, when he was in grade 2, they carved out this canoe, and then they have a copper keel on it with Paddle to the Sea. And they got a phone call, 1991, got a phone call out of the blue at school. They tracked me down to the school, and he said he wanted to bring his kid up with the boat and throw the canoe in the river.
For heaven's sakes.
Yeah, because when he contacted Thunder Bay, they said, well, take it out to Silver Islet, then it won't get lost in anything. But he was, he wanted to be for real.
Yeah, put it in the Nipigon River. So
the museum had been burnt at that time, but Roland and I met them in town. They flew up, chartered his own plane, flew to Thunder Bay, chartered a vehicle and come down with his family, and then they, Roland read from Paddle to the Sea, and the kid let the boat go in.
Wow.
And then it just sort of sat in the backwater, so he went out and got it, and then
gave it a little shot.
And he threw it out in the river.
So that's 1991 that he did that?
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? Wow.
So he was quite an adventurous kid. I went down and saw him when he was, I think, 12 when he graduated. His one school going in the other, and I got down there, and he had his father had built him a forge out the back, so he had made a big sword because he was crazy about this Beardmore sword.
Oh.
I brought that out of I had that at home so I could bring it out and show it to him. So he got all interested into swords and yeah. Well, his father was in a steel company, so he had access to a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So what about around the corner here? What have you got tucked away?
Okay, tucked away here. This is if you've seen the totem pole up there at Hortons, this is another one of Bob Bierman's Paddle to the Sea. In the native history, for the longest time, as far as what they were doing, because this is 1950, and she demonstrated how they were worn and used, and it also has their birch bark canoe teepee there.
And Louise was just saying that her mom, she's got a picture of her mom and with Tickanoggin down at the mud flats down here, so that'll be a nice picture.
So that's quite popular on the blog, is the cradleboard Tickanoggin. But the one thing that has come through for thousands of years, and which we don't have because Thunder Bay's got it, out of the Danielson collection, is the tinkle cone. We have the copper tinkle cone. You know, when you see the jingle dresses?
Yes.
With all their sparkly stuff, I thought they're just being commercialized. And then we've had actual tinkle cone. Same size, about the size of your little finger there, in the copper that the copper culture made. So that's going back 3,500 years. And then that whole culture part of that connected. So usually I thought, well, they were just coming off of TV and all these, Hollywood and all that jazz.
Right.
No, it was, they may not have used it in the same way, in the same amount of time, like for the colorful stuff or whatever, but it would be for the same reason. So it wasn't all just work. They did have fun and games. Now this shows the evolution of the axe.
Yeah, wow.
And this comes from, now this stone axe here is from England. This one is from Manitoba. So there's a difference in the type of stone they were using out there. This is from, I think, Cosgrove Lake or Limestone Lake.
Wow.
We have these lakes around here that have weird rocks.
Yes.
I know I have one that would look like a sock. But anyways, and then Nate McGuire, he just wired it on the way, or put it on with a spruce root like that, which would make it up. So it looks really good.
Nice, yeah.
Now this is the real ads again. And that one you can see the red ochre marking on that other one there. And then you start into the modern day axe.
Different designs, yeah.
And then we got the Swiss pattern broad axe. It wasn't deep enough for me to get the other style of broad axes that we do have. Then this is your double bitted one.
Nice.
And then this guy is one of a kind. They made it up. And then that one's had a difficult life. And then that other thing is one of those small things.
Yeah.
That's
still, they're old enough.
I don't know. I don't. I don't know. I don't. 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 I don't it doesn't seem to fit with, I like a little axe like that, and, you know, frozen wood.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that one. Now we have ski makers. They made their own skis.
That's true, yeah.
Ski press. That one was a press that you put your soaked ski tip in and bent it down so that it would dry curved up.
They were making skis here in Nipigon for a while, were they not?
Yeah, and then we had a ski factory, but they didn't make this kind. They made a more of a flat.
These are homemade ones. These ones.
So these are more the cross country skis. And then there's the woodworking tools, which is your value added stuff. And some of those are over 200 years old. And they still move because they're wooden screws and stuff like that.
And they still work.
You get the metal and the metal on metal, and it just sort of seizes right up. So this was made around 1895, and it was from the Ross family, I think, up on Cameron Falls Road. Sort of back in where Salmon's in that area.
Yeah, okay.
There was between there. And they made their own irons and they made their own blocks. These others were manufactured more in the New England penitentiaries. They made a lot of the blocks, thousands and thousands of them. It was their industry. And then they'd buy the irons from England. So you can date them because the books, like some of these books and that, there's different books that will list who was doing what at, you know, who had this smith at so and so. So they'll have their names stamped right on it. So we got lots. So then we got drills. We got the drill. That was all the parts that go with it. Now this one here is sort of like the historic side of your logging, where you're hand logging.
Yep.
Everything by hand. With the stamp irons and the log carriers and the pickaroons.
So
And the
which
hand
are
hooks and
which?
Whatever.
Which are which? What you're describing here? Pickaroons and.
Oh, okay. You got your pickaroons up here.
Yeah.
Pickaroons or hookaroons. And this is your log carrier.
Okay.
It's a two-man log hauler. These are yours. There's stamp hammers. Now, you'll see piles and piles of wood.
Yeah.
All these wood. Every stick was hammered with one of these.
Identification
on the end of it. So when they came down the river and through the lake and they got stuck on this rock and over here on the shore, and you had the beachcombers that picked them all, then they could identify them as to which company sell them back to, and they'd get 25 cents a stick or whatever for their beachcombers, and they did that on Lake Helen, and they did that out on Lake Superior.
right?
And I imagine up on Lake Nipigon too, wherever they would.
I'll have to look
come
for
out
that
of the
on some of these logs that are still stuck on the shores there.
Yeah. They cleaned out a lot, but oh yeah, they went way back up. Yeah, you had, because the ice would push them up into the, so you really had to haul them there. I did that once. Couldn't hardly move my arms the next day. Oh yeah, you'd drag them along. Oh yeah, that's lots of fun. So, and then they always had music to go with. So there's the jumping jacks, and then you can see these are the cogs on there, the little
Kicking up the heels.
the metal studs on their shoes so they wouldn't fall off.
Oh,
Not
yeah?
that they ran around too much on this than the little logs, but when they go out on the boom logs and whatever, they
Yeah.
still needed them.
Yeah, you can see the spikes in there. Huh.
Now, we were fortunate that these pictures of the log horse logging came through the fire all right. And then you got the chainsaws. Then this was a reciprocal.
Oh,
chainsaw,
okay. It worked like a saw back and forth.
But it's very expensive blade. So Romeo O'Clair really liked it, but the expense was this started getting your cheaper stuff. And then this one is not necessarily from local, though I've seen some trees that they could use it on.
Yeah.
The one down here is one that you had to have a whole shoulder harness on
Wow.
because it was so heavy. But it was for cutting logs that were already on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a tree cutter, so they would go down that way. And that was from Geraldton. And then that was a sharpener.
Oh.
These are the felt booties. They're the Finnish, part of our Finnish heritage. These were
Oh, yeah.
sock stretchers. In other words, when you washed the whole sock, you put it on
Yeah.
here, or you didn't put it on your foot again.
That's true. A few of those in our
When we
in our
first
house.
got our first dryer, first washer and dryer. Okay, washed all my brother's socks up and I put them in the dryer and they come out.
That was a surprise for the dryer.
Because I just hated washing socks by hand. So, yeah, so much for that idea. You got all new socks. This is underwear, and the underwear was given to the prisoner of wars people that were used in the logging because we were short on men.
Mm-hmm.
So they offered work to the prisoners of war.
Okay.
And not necessarily had to be prisoners of war. There were the interned Japanese were also working in the bush. And the ones that were treated so well here, they came back. Or they never left. So it was, yeah. And then this is a fly bar. This is, you put that over your sleeping bag, keep the mosquitoes out at night. I guess that one would keep out the no-see-ums too.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
You need that almost a silk.
And where's the story on the accordion there?
So that's a fly bar.
What's the accordion there? That's from...
What date?
Yeah.
Good question.
Or
Probably would be what, 40s and 50s.
cool.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The accordion here?
Oh, the accordion.
You've got 1924 written on there, yeah?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, because I can, some of these I can look up on the internet and get the
Cool. Where did the
picture and whatever.
where did it come from? The accordion.
Pardon?
Where did the accordion come from?
Whose was it?
Have no idea. I don't know offhand.
Okay.
It's cool.
Sometimes things show up and I never know
Yeah.
where they come from.
This barrel, Betty,
Oh, yeah.
that's a
barrel.
fancy,
Yeah. That one was where they mixed up a sort of a brew and took it out in the fields to the hay makers. And a lady from across the way recognized it right away, like across the lake. and she was gonna send me the recipe for what goes in there.
Molasses,
But
water, and
anyways,
sugar. You know what they were
anyways.
making.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Nobody
Anyways,
came home from the fields after that.
Yeah, so that was,
Brew pot.
Yeah.
yeah, so that's smoked up. So some things smoked up and others burnt,
Yeah.
crisped, and, but that was in the 50s. That was what you sprayed around for mosquitoes and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you smelled Avon Skin So Soft, that's fly tox. No wonder that you put it on and you don't get any flies with
Same
that.
same
Because you
ingredients.
never forget the smell of fly tox if you've ever smelled fly tox.
Wonder if that was DDT.
It was likely pretty deadly stuff.
So over here, Betty, this,
Okay.
I know these, I recognize those barrel staves.
Yeah.
They came up from the Black Sturgeon.
Equining.
I think those are the ones I gave you.
Yeah. I was just trying to figure out how in the world you said that name.
Escanonwatton.
Escanonwatton.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
those were in the sand on Escanonwatton.
Cool.
So,
You can see where the
Yeah.
bands,
One around.
yeah, you can see where the banding cinched into on them. From both of them there, yep.
the rakes that they made a lot of stuff. They made pretty well, yeah, weird stuff. They made those kind of rakes. They made the wire rakes. You can see he's using it right there. Our Finnish farming history.
Mm-hmm.
So we had quite a bit of farming land, especially down your place.
Yeah, down Mattis Road,
That
yeah.
way, everything has grown up pretty well. So, and they had, I know Mrs. Matson, she had a really good picture of them where they were pulling the stumps, where they had the bars across like this and the horse or cattle on each end, and they just went around and they screwed it right out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was, but I don't think I've ever got that picture, but I mean, when there were pictures that she was.
Yeah.
So it might be in the thousands of stuff that she sent.
Did they send stuff here?
Oh, I've got 62 photo albums and
From-
1,000 extra photographs.
From Matson, Mrs. Matson?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see those.
Yeah, so I haven't gone through but it was funny though, they pulled the one, the guy that was, well, he's been here when he was younger, and when he heard that Mrs. Millie Matson's or Karina's photographs were over there, so he just pulled out this one and looked, third page, there's the mum.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, isn't that nice?
I mean, well, I wasn't expecting that, so,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, I'd
things
love to
happen.
go through those albums, holy smokes.
Yeah.
There might be pictures of our property there.
Hmm?
In adjacent
Oh,
properties, yeah.
yeah. So now we've
So
got.
this is home life, basically, in the, in those early
Yeah.
for the
Yeah,
early
that was,
settlers.
I've got the deed somewhere. He bought the property off of the Hudson Bay Company, so you had the stamp of London on it. So it's a big deed like that. I moved the thing so many times, I don't know where I moved it to. So that's what I'm hoping to find this summer when I get the
Yeah.
kids. We can go through and make sure we get all our our stuff that's filed up. Yeah, they, some of the guys supplemented their pay by being a barber.
Yeah.
For the, at the different camps. This is covering 1,200 years of occupation on South Bay on Lake Nipigon. Same area. And they're all the different cultures, the Black Ducks, Selkirk, and Laurel, and something else. Anyways, I have to bone up on these things. But, oh yeah, I had that book. I wonder where I better give it to somebody to read. Fiddly-dee. I had a book in there.
What about
I'd like
these
to get it
guys?
over there. Yeah. This here, okay. This whole set, okay, comes from that 1500 BC, which is your 3,500 years ago. Now that is from Orient Bay, the McCollum collection.
Oh, so this is part of the Viking.
No, this isn't Viking.
This is a separate.
Way before the Vikings.
Okay.
This is a couple thousand years before the Vikings.
Okay.
All right. It's the copper culture. It's copper culture.
Oh, so this is one of the digs on Lake Nipigon.
Yeah, it wasn't really a dig. What he was doing was he was making a road from his garage down to the beach or something like that, and he unearthed this stuff.
Wow.
So there was 46 pieces.
Holy smokes, that's quite a find.
Yeah, it was, and it's unique in North America in that it had copper and lithics all in the same gravesite.
Wow.
Now,
Are these the original, are these the actual artifacts?
Yeah, these are the copper copies again. Ottawa's got the real one.
Ottawa has
Yeah,
them, okay.
I just wrote to Ottawa to find out about them, and in the return mail I got a copy.
Oh,
So,
trying to quiet you down.
Yeah, compare. And then of course, then we had all those years with what we were messing around with. So I think I wrote the Royal Ontario Museum, said, why don't you give us a copy of them or something like that. So,
yeah.
So then they made copies for us, and they made copies for Beardmore and stuff.
Nice.
But these, now the guys from Minnesota, they've working with the native copper again, trying to figure out how these were done, and they figure they were put into like a mold, like a dugout mold, and then pounded in there.
Wow.
Because they're so uniform.
Wow.
From one place to another. I mean, they show up a lot. So, and then he said if the sides are straight, they haven't been used, but if they're curved, then they would have been already put onto a shaft.
Okay.
There would have been a shaft, but the shaft didn't survive the 3,500 years.
Of course not.
But so they may have all been put in there in usable form.
Yeah.
But all we're getting is the ends.
Right.
Yeah. But this was. See, we're up here, and when something works, you keep it. You don't just throw it out in those times. So, but they were using it as decorations as well as the reality things. And to me, that center one is a crochet hook and spacer.
Oh.
But these grim archaeologists think, they bled somebody. Oh yeah, right.
Oh, they thought that was for bleeding purposes. Oh.
They always like to have blood and gore, but it makes more sense because somebody had seen what the natives in northern Quebec were doing, taking a spoon and sort of bastardizing it by bashing it down, and then cutting that hook onto the end so that they could crochet for their snowshoes, and then use the center for the spacer to get that space them out right.
How about
which makes
this?
sense. Now this one
How
here,
about this collection?
this collection here is
Not crazy, all from one spot.
Yeah, that's all from, that's Ray Dupuy up there from Albert Island. And they saw kids skipping rocks, and they thought, aha, let's go see what they're doing, and they were skipping these. So they gathered up 2 pails full.
Unreal.
So I don't know how much is out in Lake Nipigon, but they figure it's now as near as we can figure it's somewhere here in the late Archaic.
That's
It hasn't got the notches in, and I don't see where notches would actually fit in those designs. He figures it was a workshop, like the archaeologist figures it was likely a workshop.
Oh, it's where they were making them
Because
all.
they had so many of them, and then they had all the pieces. Now they picked up all the pieces, which is the flakes and stuff,
Right.
and those are the ones that are the knives and the drills and whatever. They just don't look like what
Actual
people
arrowheads.
are acquainted with that.
Right.
And then this is in the same area, Lake South Bay, again. So you go, it follows right up through all the different stages here of our, there's your Black Duck, Selkirk, Laurel, and for the pottery. There's no pottery down here.
Right.
Or if there was, it didn't survive. They had a different lifestyle. So we'll go over and finish up on our real copper.
Yeah.
So this is what you're seeing as a native copper. And then this is the copper bell. And then you have the copper pikes, and there's some more copper. Now they're weighted. That's the one thing that's different about those. They're in everything but weight. So what you see is what they had, but they didn't weight the artifact, all right?
Oh, yeah.
So these have the actual weight of the copper because they are the real McCoys. Now this one, the big long one, was found up on in the basement about the corner of 7th and Bell, up in that area. And Buzz always likes to put things in the heights of whatever, so it's around 750
Wow.
to 800 foot level is where you're going to get the copper culture coming in.
Okay.
And then he has the shoreline coming up at that
Oh,
level for
okay.
that time. You see, he works on the shoreline,
You're
and then
right.
he colors the topographical maps back, and then he can check out.
So where the lake level was here
Where-
in town at that
Yeah,
particular
and
era.
then, and that's why when they put the road through out there in the hill, they found so much copper that
Yeah.
disappeared.
And this is what copper looks like when it's
Yeah, but
there
they find
and
it,
on the
copper,
on
it's
the
a copper,
ground.
it's a copper nugget, that's the raw copper.
Okay.
So they could find it in chunks, they could find it in huge pieces or
Mhm.
whatever, and that's what's on like Isle Royal, and then across in Houghton and
Yeah.
Marquette, that area in
Right.
Michigan, on Noggin. So they have a lot of copper over there.
We have the
And
odd
we had
piece
the
on
copper
shore
up
around
here.
here.
Yeah, so we had some here. Now these copper pieces, nobody knew what they were back in when we opened 1973. They were just called unknown. And now we have, Michigan has discovered what they were like because they had a painting with a lady, one of the native ladies, holding this thing that looked like that on the end of it. It was a stick and it had that on the end of it. So the guy got thinking, he was a retired dentist, but he got thinking. And when you use that for your flaking, they call it a copper flaking baton because that would be put against the rock and then you hit and the copper grabs and pulls the flake off.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
So those are flaking batons. But
Wow.
boy, they really, he got credit along with the archaeologists that figured it out for it. Like that actually, okay, if that's what it is, we'll make one and see whether it
Yeah.
works. And so when it works out, yeah, because that is, it's a messed up end. So the end is sort of screw-G because it pulls on the bottom. So those were very, very unknown. And I mean, I wrote all over the place for stuff, and we had Bill Ross, from the archaeologist from Thunder Bay, and he
Trying to figure out what it was, yeah.
And yeah, so.
So they figure it was
And
used for...
people were really good in those days of replying to letters. I mean, it took weeks,
Yeah,
sometimes months,
back and forth,
whatever.
yeah.
But they certainly got interested.
Yeah.
And then these are the illegal fish spears.
What about behind you here, Betty?
Fish net then goes with.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's been used for 50 years or more by Mrs. Cormier's mum.
Hmm.
I think it was the Deschamps, Mrs. Deschamps.
Twine.
Yeah. Now these are the beadwork. This is the beadwork, say about 1890, 1900. Very, very fine beadwork. This one here is from 1975, so you're seeing a bigger beadwork. Now this is the floral pattern. And the Great Lakes are florals. Once you start getting into the geometric, that's your Northern Cree.
Oh,
These were leather gauntlets with silk embroidery on it. So I saved those up as much as I could. They said it was too far gone to go down to Ottawa to clean up. They cleaned up the moccasins, 258 hours.
wow.
They spent on those moccasins.
That's after the fire. That's how long it took to clean these.
So it was interesting to find out now the other place that is floral is Florida area.
Well, I was going to ask, is this unique to this?
Yeah, this is to the Great Lakes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is the floral, and then once you start getting geometric, you're Northern
That's further
Cree.
north. Okay.
Yeah, and then now that Nipigon, that's geometric, but that was from made in Minnesota. So you're getting more of the central
Yeah.
bit.
Very nice.
So yeah, sometimes you think, oh, it's just a pretty picture, but it starts being connected for a reason. And these are the leggings that they talk about. They burnt, but we have a bit of them left. But they had all beautiful flower design going right up to the knee. And we had them all nice stuffed with the tissue paper, special tissue paper, and of course it got wet, so it saved the back.
Oh, okay.
all the beadwork burned up.
Yeah.
Yeah, big deal. Okay, now you have. This is Don Gapin, and he made the mother minnow lure. And this is his family he owned the chalet bungalow lodge. And this is the actual buffet from there.
Oh, wow.
So when you do Gapin, you've got Gapin and Gapin and Gapin and yeah, eventually he will get there. And the chalet was the place to go. It was the railway lodge, and
Part of this CP
the
CP
king
rail
and
system
the
of
Queen
hotels.
Mother.
So CP hotels.
was there. So it's Queen Elizabeth's mother and father. And they had lunch there. This is a blueberry picker.
Scoop them up.
And then, see, it's even got itself a little ramp there to
So you're not
stop
dumping
that.
back out
So
when
it
you
doesn't
take
come
another
back out,
scoop.
yeah.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
I just, so, yeah, that was, Buzz says, he always used to say illegal as hell, so, I don't know if at that time it was or not. But after, when the blueberries were so good, you could just, like
Yeah.
this. Yeah, just fill them like this. Then my mother had to spend all that time taking all the leaves out. She
Yeah.
said, never again. So after that,
Clean
it was
pick.
like, okay, pick them
Yeah.
clean. Yeah, now that's your mud flats that we're talking about down here, this area here. And we had an original of it, and it burnt pretty good. It's still visible, but Mrs. Dampier gave us that after the fire.
Yeah.
It's a
There's a
repeat of the
lot
same
of
one.
buildings down
So,
there on the
yeah, so we
at the
had,
Nipigon waterfront.
we got the names of all the houses that were on there. And then there was houses across here and here,
Mm-hmm.
and there's the little mill.
Yeah.
And the plywood, and the different mills out there, the sawmills. I think there was 3 sawmills out there, along with that. So that's our,
Nice to have that photo.
yeah, and then this was sort of an amalgamation of different photos of, different times. Just to get everything in. So it's sort of over the years,
Yeah.
a little bit of the mill down there, and this mostly got, I think, filled in with when they dredged that back part. The hair
We'll get
color.
Emily's hair done up here. Have a seat. We'll get you tuned right up.
Scary.
Yeah. So there's, that was from about 47 to the early 50s, late 40s, early 50s. Because I found a My Little Margie comic book from 47 that had,
Oh
she
yeah.
got her hair done.
Had one of
really
those.
thing.
Wow.
And I know they curled Arnold the pig's tail. So I said, we have one of those. Oh, that was funny. Yeah. So then you have the other, this is a do-it-yourself one, which would go down the lampshade, be heated up,
Oh.
round and round. And then they have the electric. Same one. That's another one like that, but there is, this one here is electric. Same thing. And then we have the double electric. One is a high heat and one is a medium, like this one here. And they're, oh, they go this way. Yeah.
What about the shoemakers here?
Oh, the shoemakers, yes, we had lots of shoemakers. There was, seemed to be all the farms usually had one shoe last, and then we did have a couple shoemakers, 2 or 3 shoemakers actually over the years. And there's the there's some of those are the cleats in there, but there's the wooden lasts. And then there's the metal ones. And then there's, this one is another one. That one is a big one. This one, you have the special ones that would fit in there all the time. These quilts, they were made as a fundraiser for the Boy Scouts. They sold them as $25 for a square, and then the local quilters made them up.
Oh, okay.
So I have 4 of those quilts. That's another one. That's a sewing machine. And Oscar Jarvila bought it from Tumala. Tumala was the shoemaker, Mrs. Tumala's father.
Wow.
And they said, oh, we can get that working. I said, no, you can't. Because once you get it working, you have to put it...
Oh, not allowed to touch it.
Yeah, that's why all the sewing machines are down instead of up. Because it's bad enough they can get their toes underneath the treadles, but that's whatever. So this becomes our replica of our sitting room that we had in the old museum, where we had the organs and the piano and sewing machines. But this organ went through the fire, and you can see the keys got smoked right down, right into the ivory. There is no way we can get those keys to whiten up.
Yeah, it's all part of history.
So the organ, this organ comes from the church at Jackfish.
Oh, wow.
When the community was closed down, and this one was given as, the church was given as a, whatever, salvage. The guy from Terrace Bay got this, put it in his boathouse. So he had it in his boathouse, and then one New Year's Eve he decided he's going to shoot the light out on the boathouse, which he did. But it went right through the wall and right through the organ. So you got a bullet hole up there.
Oh boy.
Does that show up? Does that show up?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's fine.
Anyway, there's the bullet hole.
Good thing somebody wasn't playing it.
And it was very lucky organ, because he had his dynamite right here. Packed.
Oh,
stacks of dynamite here. So I met his son in Thunder Bay at one big rap meeting or whatever, and he was inquiring whether or not it survived. I said, oh yeah. And the kids washed it down, and they washed it down, and they scrubbed it down, and they scrubbed the varnish right off of it. So of course when you put it beside one of these nice things, it would just stand out like whatever. Then I got this stressed wood. When I bought this, and you put it beside it, and it blends right in.
Mm-hmm.
There's no problem, so you don't have to worry about trying to refinish this and bring it back up to the old time. Yeah, that's the church.
Okay.
Oh yeah, somebody was doing the history of the church. I'd say go find, I think, Dr. Harvey.
So this is from down along the North Shore.
Yeah, this is from Jackfish to the other side of Terrace Bay.
Right, okay.
All right. Now this is, there's a discus and a shot put. Penty Jarvila was into all sorts of, there was all sorts of activities going back in the 40s and the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
They had lots of tournaments and big meetings, and even Ontario competition and stuff. So he had, we can't find this javelin. I figure somebody threw it in the bush. But anyways, this showed up and the shot put showed up,
Oh,
so
that's cool.
he was so happy when he found it. I said, I gotta get your picture taken with you.
Oh,
He
holding
was,
it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
he was, so there, yeah. Because he lives in British Columbia, so he just come home to visit his brother.
Is that Carlo's brother?
Carlo's brother, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So he was all excited about that. And then that's Nipigon Bakery.
Nipigon Bakery.
Yeah, that's Lespi's.
Oh,
Mikko's grandfather had
okay.
a bakery. And that's how they got this piano, because when McCurdy was up in
Orient Bay?
Orient Bay area, when he had that place, he would get his bread and his pastries and stuff from Lespi's Bakery.
Okay.
So he built up sort of a little bit of money owing.
A little debt.
So he gave the piano back. This was actually brought up by William McCurdy.
Oh, for heaven's
And
sakes.
he had it at Orient Bay. And
Wow.
then he gave it to Leo Lespi, and Leo Lespi then, I think, had it at the church. Gave it to the church maybe after his first wife died.
So that would have been up
this
at,
come back from the church.
that would have been at the Royal,
But it's had a repair date of 1884.
wow.
It's from each other. This one would be here and that one there, and that one got smoked up.
Betty, Danny.
It's okay. I'm good.
Oh, you're gonna dump some stuff? I've got a hard drive over here if you want to dump
It's
on.
okay. Figured it out.
Oh, okay.
And all these cabinets.
That's the first piano from Massey Hall. That's that's something in itself here. Be interesting to pursue that little line
See,
of.
All the cabinets that you see around here are courtesy of Cultural Spaces Canada programs. Government of Canada. They put $95,000 into these
A nice
things,
touch.
and we just about lost it all because the town was holding that. We didn't know they had it even, because they were trying to do the whole downtown revitalization. We had the money, and then we had like, okay, 2 months, 3 months to do it. Oh boy.
How about this one here, Betty?
This one?
Yeah. Where did that come from?
This one, I don't know. That one, yeah, that one from Dorian. This one, I'm not too sure. It
Hayden
came
Guelph.
after the fire, okay?
Oh,
So
okay.
some of these things showed up without, you know, they would
People
just be
just
there.
hauling down here, yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't too sure. But that one, yeah, that one, I've got that one. But this radio, that's from Jellicoe.
Okay.
Richard Darling. I got radios from Richard Darling.
Wow.
And then this is,
Every one of these things could, you
It's the
could
Happy
do some
Gang.
research on them and have a whole story to go with every
so
item.
you would be listening to them on that kind of a radio.
The Happy Gang.
It's a happy gang. And then you get these there. The lamps.
How about in here, Betty, the Nipigon Bottling
Oh yeah,
Works?
there's the Nipigon Bottling Works. Yeah, there's Nipigon Bottling Works. So that came from about it says 1923 to 1969. Yeah, I got, Leo Lespi designed the
Did he?
The red,
The logo?
because
Yeah.
that's the loggers and the river drives.
Ah, wow.
So he did that one. So they had a variety of the different
Yeah.
things, and he was called Tommy Coca-Cola, and that was his horse, and he would deliver the stuff with by horse. Then these are just the different. There's the Rojo Dairy. Different businesses of Nipigon.
And that Rojo Dairy was where the golf course is today.
Yeah. And then there was a dairy down at Matson's,
Mattis.
Nipigon Dairy.
Yeah, Matson's, I should say.
So, and that's, so, and then some of these things are just in there because they have the stamp of Nipigon businesses,
Right.
different things like that.
Those would have been little cream bottles, I guess.
You know, if they'd have got themselves together, I mean, they could, there's a lot of advertising they could do rather than just buying something from China that's just got Nipigon, you know, putting Nipigon on the plates. I mean, you're finding all these old things that had Nipigon on, like, and then there's the one here that's got, like, Superior on
Yep.
there. And this one is back, we were trying to figure out what year those were.
Little
But
plates.
Nipigon, Ontario. It might have been 1937 when the highway was open. You know, they would make the,
Oh, okay, little commemorative
Yeah.
things.
yeah,
Very good.
so, and then we have Isidore Wado's fish.
Yeah, that
He's our woodland artist.
Isidore Wado is
And
a
Derek-
person's name that painted that. He's, is this also Betty
Yeah,
Isidore Wado?
yeah. Yeah, I've got assorted places. I liked him better than Morriso. Morriso got very black, very dark. Where Isidore
go
was
over this
always
way?
light. Yeah, there's your dairy over here. Different ones. And so basically there was the three local dairies, and then you had, that's what's left of the leggings.
Oh, there's the leggings. Okay.
And then he was, called himself Doctor on Snowshoes because he was assigned to look after the people building the Northern Transcontinental Railway, Dr. Herman Bryan. So he was stationed here in Nipigon, but he had to travel to the northern part by canoe, by tramway, by dog sled, whatever, hundreds and hundreds of miles. So he wrote about it, and I've got that up on the blog, Doctor on Snowshoes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our first doctor in Nipigon, 1905 to about 1908.
What do you have next there?
Next we have our rocks and minerals, sort of, and there's the marble and the sandstone and the quarries and Lake Superior agate, and the tremolite. Buzz used to call that fossilized beaver chips. Because it certainly looks like fossilized beaver chips from his 8-foot beavers.
Yeah.
Ah, and then this is the Finnish culture here, okay, and between Lapland and Finland, and the history of the different families. Mathis. I should show that to the township. There's how you spell Matta. M-A-A-T-T-A.
Yep.
That's how I always try to punch it
Yeah,
into
one time
Google
they
or
had it
into
spelled
Google
right,
Maps.
But,
Yep.
I didn't do anything with there. So now this is a tabletop separator. Usually if we had the farm, we had the big one that you cranked up like that. But that one went on the tabletop. And then the different paddle wheels for making butter. Yeah, and that's just a little bit of our Red Rock house and our Hudson Bay Company. Now, 1859 to 1987, that's just its history right there at the waterfront.
This is the old sign off of the store up here.
Roaring around all over the place.
That sign up above there then is the original sign off the old
This
Hudson
seemed
Bay
to be a
Company store
tradition of Nipigon, is to put their fish on the birch bark. Because we haven't found it anywhere else.
here. No, that's a Nipigon. Those birch bark mounted mounts was unique to Nipigon. So they used to stitch the bark, split the hide and stitch them on the birch bark, and then they'd send
And that's
people
the
home with
McCurdy
a
fly
British-
dope that-
with a mount. Where did that come from, Betty?
From Red Rock. It's from Corpy. Sarky Corpy. Okay. He has a summer college at Polly Lake right beside Les Base.
Oh, okay.
That's where he had.
Wow.
And so then his, this come from his, okay, Budzik. Anyways, I think it was from his son or his grandson or whatever, and Red Rock brought it over.
Yeah. Very nice.
It was sort of a part, but all together, like it was, these come off, that come off, and then they just wrapped the rest of the stuff all together. So you could, these things just sit on, sort of thing. So it's interesting, we put it together the wrong way. Put this side, we had to switch sides. So that was one of our summer projects one year.
What about?
And with it came all the material that they use. It's all wrapped up in. So what they would do is take your old clothes and cut it up and wrap it up. No, we didn't have the loom like this. What we did was you did the braided rod. You braided it and then you spiraled it around like that and sewed it together. So we used to do that. So as kids you cut and you had to, then you learned to weave it, and then my mother sewed it together. So, but those would be, they would be the rugs like this, where these were the, and we could buy them in 65, 66, 68 from pretty well any place here was selling them. So it was quite a, and they come from all short ones, the really long ones, about 10 feet long.
What about these? What's the story behind these, Betty?
All right. Now you're going, because that was a doctor that he left in 1908, so there was a different doctor in place. but they were still building the Northern Transcontinental Railway. And in February the 9th, 1909, there was a dynamite explosion. The guys were up on the rocks tamping it down, and there was other people, other men down below that were still hauling, I guess, the rubble and whatever like this. And the dynamite went off. Of course, it blew those two guys up, and then the rock that come down on top of the other people, it killed 5 more, and one guy survived. 1 or 2 guys survived it, but the survivor. Now this happened at Auden. Okay, took us a while. It took us 4 years in order to find out where Cross Lake was. But Cross Lake was Auden area. Auden has changed its name back. So they loaded them up on a horse and sleigh, and they brought them down to Nipigon. That was 150 miles. Took them 5 days to bring them down here. They arrived in Nipigon. They had coroner's inquest with all the hotel owners and different people, big guys on there. And it was just said everybody knew what they were doing. The equipment was good. It was just a freak accident that killed them. So there were 7 men killed. Now 6 of them were from Sweden and 1 was from Norway. Now the one from Norway, his great nephew got in contact with me in about 2005. And he had a lot of information already as to all the names of the people, but we were trying to find out what happened to them. And then we discovered that, okay, they're supposed to be buried in our churchyard. But of course there was no crosses over there or anything. And I asked the Reverend McClure, and he said, well, they didn't keep records until 1910. And this happened in 1909.
Yeah.
So the records are in Thunder Bay. So he had all the records in Thunder Bay, and he got the listing, and it named the names of the people and where they were born, what their home was, and all that sort of stuff. So then, a couple years later, or a year later, all of a sudden, Reverend McClure comes in with these crosses, and their names matched.
Wow.
4 of the 7. So, of course, it wouldn't be his great uncle at all. No, he wasn't there. But 4 of the guys were there. But we have pictures that show the 7 crosses in the row.
Wow.
And then we figure they went to the stone, but the stones were those narrow stones.
Oh, yeah.
And in the 70s, I think there was this big scare about falling,
Pillars, yeah, falling over.
Unstable thing, and I think they got taken away.
Okay.
So, but these crosses were in the shed. They were white crosses, and they had brass nameplates on. So everything.
Wow.
But you see, they were foreign names, so
Yeah.
it just went in one ear and out the other when I was talking to him. But then he thought, well, rather than throw them out, he'll bring them over here, which is good, because then, aha! So we got those together.
Nice.
And then I got all the fishing maps. 22 fishing maps come in from the guy that gave me, that wrote Paddle Pack and Speckled Trout. His son sent me his father's fishing maps. So his father fished up here in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. So he had these maps, and here's one from 1927, Cross Lake.
Oh, you had the name on there for you.
So then you go from Cross Lake over to modern day, and there's the nearest thing was Auden.
Yes.
And whatever. So then in Buzz's little notations on some of the stuff I was going through, all of a sudden I got Cross Lake turned to Toronto Lake in 1982. They keep renaming things, and it messes up history. Like get out, I'll get out. So in 2009, it was our 100th anniversary for Nipigon's incorporation. It was also the 100th anniversary of this disaster here.
Oh,
So it just happened that the 9th of February was on a Sunday, and we held a mass service
nice, commemorating.
in St. Mary's over there. I took the crosses over and we set them up, and the guy from Norway sent me a prayer for the Swedes and a prayer for the Norwegian person, and we read out all that story, and so we had a celebration for that. And then at the same time he respected the same time for over there, so it was like a combined service between the two, which was
Awesome.
really neat.
yeah.
Yeah, so then he wrote up, he was mad that they only put it in black and white, but I took him a picture of what it was we had done, and then he wrote up the history of his great uncle.
Awesome.
And stuff like that. But he came over to make money so his mother could keep his farm when the father died.
Mm-hmm.
He came over in the fall and he was killed in February, so
Yeah.
he didn't get there. But when the guy from Norway contacted all the other people or communities, and he got, so they all know what has happened to their relatives, because they had no idea as to what's going. So you get a little thing and it just goes a little bit together and a little bit together, and and then
Yep,
all of a sudden you get maps from Vancouver Island that,
it all comes together.
yeah, it all comes together. And he was very patient, and so I've got a book on the story of the crosses, and I wrote a poem about it. And
What
all
about,
that sort of
what
jazz.
about the military stuff
Oh,
there,
the
Betty? You
military
could talk
stuff.
briefly
Okay.
about that. I wish I could get
okay,
rid of that.
military stuff is basically one family.
I don't know which one it is.
We have Lawrence Martin, the son, we had the father, we had the uncle, we have the sisters, we have the brothers. So these all covered First World War, Second World War, and the Korean War. And then, being Aboriginal, they finally they realized or recognized the commitment of the Aboriginal people, and they started giving out the awards. So before he died, he got those awards.
Oh, good.
But he was a sniper in Korea. Now his sister, she didn't get into Europe. She was just based in Canada. But you can see, as young boys, they were dressed up in military uniforms, even as a young kid. So we have one article called "The Fighting Delarones." So the Delarone family was also
Oh,
massive
contributors, yeah.
military involvement too. Now we have his uncle was the Martin from the World Record Speckled Trout.
That's true, yeah. He was part
And
of
that fall he joined the military, and he went over there. He was killed, and he's buried in Flanders Fields.
Okay.
So he was, so that's,
He was part of
so
the guide, he was one of the
Yeah.
guides that
for the
was there
world
when they
record.
caught the world record brook trout.
Yeah. So you get, this and the fish and that and there and then whatever, and
Yeah.
everything comes together. A lot comes together with the fish because everybody got into fish. And then these are what you're seeing out on the, like the
Pictographs.
Mamegwishi and the rock images out there off of Red Rock. And there's about 31 different sites on the islands out there in the bay. I have a bunch of those up on the blog too. Now these are, you can see how good he was back in the 70s. And then this is from just a few years ago. And he sort of got wiped out, or is getting wiped out. And then that's another one of Isidore's
Is it?
picture. Yeah,
Wow.
just in black and white. he did such fine
How did,
design.
who gave these to the museum? Who had these?
This was from Brennan.
Okay.
There's one behind there too, and the other one Brennan, but the fish is from Stephanitis,
Okay.
Emilio Stephanitis.
Maybe
Yeah.
we could get you to tell us about the story of the world record and.
This one?
Yeah.
Because you have Gapins that was coming after the big fish, but he had guides on the river to go with his chalet. He would have, sometimes there would be 50 tourists coming out of that area. Now each one of the tourists had 2 guides, so they employed a lot. It was a big employment of the industry in there. And he created then the muddler minnow, and his family has continued on with making lures in Big Lake, Minnesota. And his son has done TV shows and written lots and lots of books, traveled around the world. When he was, his father sent him back to the States to join the Army, and once he was in there, once they knew he could fish and hunt, he was used to guide the big shots, so he didn't see much in the way of battle. Even when he was over in Korea, they went fishing.
He and Ray Dupuy Sr. grew up together. They're best friends. All they did
And he
was...
did have a pet moose for a couple years. His name was Abdul. And I have the story of Abdul up on the museum blog. And he said they used to have a crow that would sit on the back of the moose. But it started chasing the guests around.
What about this guy?
Oh yeah, this is caught by Edwin Mills, all right. It's the winner of the Mary Pickford Award, 1936, for the largest speckled trout caught in the Nipigon River. And it's sewn on birch bark, but it's sewn, it's flat, all right. Now the world record speckled trout was sewn on birch bark, but it was given a form to use up some of the extra flesh or skin.
And this is a description of how they, he documented a description of how they actually prepared the hides for skinning, for mounting on the birch bark.
Yeah, and the brown color seems to come from the cedar. The cedar, they used the cedar smoke. It says it preserved it for life, and it looks like it too. It just changed the color down a little bit.